All right. So tonight I'm going to tell you about my first C130 ride. I checked into VR-22. It was my first duty station, VR-22, Road to Spain, and it was a C130 squadron. And we checked in. When I say we, myself and a couple other guys all went to A schools and follow-on schools together, and then we wound up being stationed all together. There were four of us. Um, in VR22. So we arrived kind of late in the year, and soon after we checked in and got things going on, they announced that the squadron announced that we're going to fly a C-130 to England for a long weekend, and they opened 80 seats in the airplane to anybody that wanted to go. So me and my buddies are all like, yeah, we're here for the adventure. So we signed up, got on the plane, flew over to England, landed. We landed in Mildenhall, which is I don't know, a ways out of London. So you had to take a train. So we jumped on the train. We found the bar car right away. Now, being sailors, we didn't get sailor drunk at any time throughout this 3-day weekend, but we did find the bar car right away, and we carried a buzz pretty much the whole time we were in England. So third day shows up, it's like time to come back. So we jumped on the train, we rode back. We had a great time in London, by the way. Uh, got back to Mildenhall, and on the train, I decided, hey man, we might as well bring some beer for the flight. So I bought some Pilsners, and I'm not talking these, 12-ounce American beers. We're talking like 18-ounce big boys. These things are great. I was like, yeah, 6 of those will tie us over. So take them to the plane, and as we're getting on the plane, I thought, well, I better ask the skipper, make sure this is cool to bring beer on the bird. So I was like, hey, excuse me, skipper, can we bring beer with us? And he's like, oh yeah, we do it all the time. Just give it to the loadmaster. He'll put it up in the ramp door area, keep it cold, and yeah, we do it all the time, no issue. So I was like, we're in. So off we go. We get in the plane. We were sitting me and the other guys were sitting in center of the airplane. I don't know if anybody's ever familiar or ever seen a C-130 rigged for seats, but it's 2 rows on each side, and the seats face each other. And when you're in there, you're basically knee to knee, or if your legs are too long, you're like knee inside a knee of the person across from you. So just so happened that the guy that was sitting across from me made Master Chief, or found out that he had been selected for Master Chief while we were in London for the weekend. So plane takes off, wheels up, flaps up, boring a hole in the sky. I reach down, I'm like, okay, pop a beer open, I hand it across to the Master Chief. I was like, here, Master Chief, congratulations. And he looked at me, he's like, no thanks. He didn't say anything about you can't drink beer on an airplane, military airplane, anything like that. He just said no thanks. So I was like, oh, okay. I was kind of surprised because I'd seen this guy toss a few back. I was like, wow, all right. So hand that beer over to my buddy. I'm like, hand the other one over to my other buddy. And I'm reaching down, pull out another one. And this chief over here, Chief Clay, says, give me that beer. And I'm like, dude, I bought it. If you wanted a beer, bring it yourself. And he looked at me and he goes, give me that beer. And now he's got like this vein poking out of his forehead. I was like, ooh, this isn't good, man. So I looked back, and I was like, okay, well, here, man, if it's that big a deal to you. I handed him the beer, right? So I'm reaching down here to get another one. And out of nowhere comes the loadmaster, man. He does this Spider-Man over the top of the center stanchion, and he's hovering over the top of me, and he goes, what are you guys doing? And I'm looking up at him. I'm like, we're drinking a beer, man. I asked the skipper. He said it was okay. And I look back at the skipper, and the skipper's looking at me, and I'm like, oh my God. so, so needless to say, I surrender all the beer right to the chief and the loadmaster. He does his Spider-Man thing back, and he dumps the beers out through the urinal tubes. And next thing I know, he's summoning us to the back. Like, oh man, this isn't gonna be good. So the skipper had changed positions, and he was now seated up on the ramp, and we're told to stand at attention, and we're standing at attention in line facing the skipper. There's 76 other people from the squadron behind us. We've got open captain's mast in the back of the plane. And so the skipper's like, rah, rah, you don't drink beer on my plane, big lip, rah, 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 chewing our butt. And I'm like, oh my God, man. I've been in the squadron for a month and I'm already busted. So, anyway, he gave us a good browbeating, and we slithered back to our seats and sat down, and everybody on the plane is like eyes on us, right? And just as we put our seatbelts back on, the whole plane shutters. I looked out the window, and they had just bagged number 3, meaning they just shut off number 3 engine, feathered the prop for some reason. So we're only maybe 30, 40 minutes into the flight, right? At this point, it's a 6-hour flight. Normally, with all 4 engines, they just bag one. It turned into like an 8-hour flight, and the whole 8 hours, man, we just I was contemplating my fate in the Navy. I figured, okay, I don't know, I guess I'll get kicked out by the time we get home. And so anyway, end of the story is he couldn't tell me right away, but later the skipper was like, hey, look, guys, I actually thought that was pretty ballsy. I thought it was pretty funny, but I couldn't, I couldn't not discipline you immediately. So survived it, didn't get busted. It was a good time. There's my story for tonight. Cheers.